welcome to my presentation on arts-based pedagogy in post-secondary education. I'm going to start the presentation by walking us through a course that I developed based on learning outcomes from an ALP communications class. And so I've designed this in Brightspace, and although it's not a platform that everyone has access to, the material that is on here can be downloaded into a common cartridge and used in other learning manager platforms like Moodle. And the primary reason for designing this was so that other communications faculty could use this course either as is or a modified version of, and that they would also have exposure to what arts-based learning can look like. So here we have the front page of the course where there's a nice welcome for students, kind of explaining that this is a different type of design for them, a different type of learning. And then we're going to go into the content. So what I've done is I've given faculty a place to start. So here I review with them an approach to the course. We talk about the course content and the course focus, things to consider about the design and delivery and the intention behind it, and then things to consider about evaluation, as I didn't make rubrics or things like that, and I didn't do a grade book, so I talked to them about how they can incorporate that. Also, the approach and response to using arts-based pedagogy in teaching and learning, because it might be a little bit uncomfortable for people to attempt this because it's not the typical read and write a response. It's a little bit different outside the box. So that helps for faculty to get started. I've also provided for them a few resources, one of which is my arts-based approach website that I've designed that we will also take a look at before the presentation is over. So going back to the table of contents, you'll notice that I've designed the course so that it has themes. So theme 1 is exploring written works, and we have weeks 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, and 7 and 8, as there are 4 learning outcomes that will be looked at and achieved over the course of those 4 weeks. So if we go into explore, okay, you'll see that there's always a nice little quote and picture to start each theme. Students are given the overview and the learning outcomes, so they know right off these are the learning outcomes that the teaching and learning is happening towards. Then right off they get to choose a novel that they want to read. So what I've done is I've given them quite a book list, tips on how to choose their book, where to access or how to access the book, and of course they're welcome to do an audio format if that's preferable for them. And so one of the first things that they're going to do is read this book over the course of 8 weeks, and they're going to do a book journal as their evaluation piece. And they have many, many creative possibilities as to how they would like to do that book journal. So you'll also see, in the spirit of UDL, the concepts that each theme discusses. I've given students kind of resources that they can watch and read, depending on their preference, so they could do both or one or the other. And always a reminder to attend class. So again, I've tried to design this course so that it can be used online, blended, in person, synchronously or asynchronously, and modified accordingly. Okay, so theme 1, when we go to weeks 3 and 4, again, we see a very similar format. Now they have some short stories that they can choose. And again, reminder to attend class and complete their journal entry. Moving on to theme 1, weeks 5 and 6. And theme 1, weeks 7 and 8. And so I've also asked them to explore poems and songs by theme. So there's poems, songs, all Canadian artists under themes. And there's links to be able to access each of those. So I've tried to make it very aesthetically pleasing and user-friendly. And then theme 1, assignments for evaluation. So they can do the book journal in whatever fashion they wish, and then they need to complete one other assignment. And so they have some choice here. So they must complete the book journal, but then they can either choose comparisons, writing and creating, or personal experience. One of these. Okay, so it gives them some guidance, some guidelines to follow, and some very creative ways that they can meet the outcome. And so if we look further, theme 2, examining what shapes us. And so again, overview and learning outcomes. And they can go in. Sometimes I've embedded videos directly in here and given them some reflection questions. Asking them to create a CBC Gem account, asking them to watch Real Engine, and giving them some questions to consider as they watch it, and again, a link to the film. So I've tried to not only provide a way of teaching that's done through art and film and such, but also the way that students respond to what they know and what they've learned. So if we move into weeks 3 and 4, looking at film and how the impact it has on society. And I've given them some films to choose from, explore and choose. So again, the link takes them directly to the film and gives a little précis about what each is about. And I've tried to include as much diversity of experience as possible. Then we're also looking at sitcoms. And so they get to explore Son of a Critch, Kim's Convenience, North of North, different Canadian communities. This talks about language and how it shapes us. Here they have a podcast, a Twisted Histories podcast, and the link to the podcast is here, and I've asked them to listen and walk. So it's like a walking classroom type of idea. And then using art as nonverbal language. So getting them to compare art and what each picture means and getting them to think about who painted it and what they were trying to say, what message they were trying to convey. And then we move into the assignments. So again, they have to choose 2, and they have several choices here. So they can do a cultural comparison, or something about verbal and nonverbal language, and they can also choose something about their personal identity. So again, lots of choice and lots of artistic, creative ways to show what they know. And the final theme, analyzing the effects of media. So again, the overview of the learning outcomes, talking about fact-checking, exploring media bias in Canada, looking at social media, evaluating it, watching Don't Call People Out, Call Them In, and again, embedding these tools right into the Brightspace. And asking them to think about cell films, to explore apps like Canva. And then the assignment for the third theme is to evaluate and produce media. And so it gives them some step-by-steps, and it asks them to produce their own media. And so that is the course. Now, I will take you to the website that I've designed, an arts-based approach. And so we have an About section, tells a little bit about me and why I've chosen this. Why have I chosen arts-based pedagogy? What is the vision that I have for this? I have an arts-based blog, and there's 3 entries. Arts-based education for equity, exploring arts-based teaching methods, so it gives people some ideas about what they can use in terms of teaching and learning, what mediums. There's a video gallery where people can watch how others have used arts-based teaching and learning. Oh, and I must also show you in the blog, cultivating connection, community, and change. And so there's a podcast that was developed. So I wrote something and I put it into Notebook LM, which then created a podcast to discuss what I wrote. And there's also some articles to explore for folks who are interested in delving further into arts-based pedagogy. And then finally, there's a place here where people can make comments. And I'm hoping that I can use this to foster our community of practice through the website. So again, it's something that can be added to. Both the course and the website are things that can be that can grow with time and are very sustainable. So it's really exciting that I have now formed the basis of things that can be used as a great starting point and tip-off point for arts-based education in post-secondary. So thank you.